Thursday morning here. Welcome into SimWorld. Today we have a fantastic show ahead talking reactions to SWBA draft, some reactions to changes coming to SimWorld prep, and yet another commitment as the commitment period continues to trek along. I'm Marsh, joined this Thursday by JK. Jason, come on in. How you doing this fine morning?
It's great to be back, Marsh. I had a blast on my first show yesterday. I'm glad to be right back in the sim world today, hot seat today, and I'm really excited to dive into some SWBA draft. I don't know about
I
you, but
love
I had
it.
a great time watching it last night.
Yep, let's start right there where the Atlanta Hawks take Zachary Sachet with the first overall pick. It is a class that features three players out of France going in the top six, with Sarr going number 2 overall. Not an exceptionally active draft with just a couple trades taking place. Of course, the trade of number 14 headed over from Portland and Washington, and then Kentucky's Rob Dillingham getting swapped from San Antonio to Minnesota. Your takeaways, JK, your biggest move, your most surprising move, your favorite move. Take it wherever you'd like on this one from the draft.
I think two of the most interesting moves of all of last night were Zach Edey getting drafted number 9 overall by the Grizzlies. I like Zach Edey. I did not expect him to be drafted in the lottery, but I do think Memphis panicked a little bit after they saw Donovan Clingan go off the board. Another move that I really liked the Lakers managing to snag Dalton Connect. They need shooting. He's not a great defender, which isn't a great fit for them, but he's a lights out shooter, a phenomenal scorer, and will fit seamlessly right off the bench being coached by JJ Redick. I love that fit. And lastly, let's head to Philadelphia. Jared McCain to the Philadelphia 76ers. That's a passionate fan base. That's a passionate group of fans. And Jared McCain is quite the interesting player off the court. So I think that he's really going to end up being something great in that backcourt next to Tyrese Maxey down in the city of brotherly love. There was a lot of interesting stuff last night, Marsh. That's probably the headliners in my book.
You stole literally all three of my notes, so I appreciate you doing that. I really did like Don't Connect there. I think that we had in the lead up to this draft with all the conversation around, oh, there's not a superstar, there's not really a great number one guy of this class. I think that starts to shade people's views to just assume that no one in this class is any good. But to get Don't Connect at 17, I think he is in a normal class, a top 15 type of player. Great shooter, great size, great ability to score individually. I thought that was a fantastic pick by the Lakers, as much as that pains me to say it. And I almost wonder if you're New Orleans, who had the opportunity to either use this pick or push it down the road, I think, to 2025. If they're like, man, I wish we knew Don't Connect was going to be on the board, because we probably would have stuck around and taken him, because that would be a great person that you could slot in next to Zion Williamson in the replacement role of Brandon Ingram, next to a team that's trying to do a lot of shooting. I loved that pick for them. I thought McCain was one. I really thought that McCain would have been a great fit for the Spurs in need of a guard. They needed to find something. They took 2 stabs at it and then realized, or probably realized ahead of time, they didn't love Rob Dillingham anyway. I almost wonder if they were hoping Donovan Clingan was going to fall to them at the number 8 spot, because I think a front court, and I've said it before, Clingan and Wemby would have been fantastic from a defensive standpoint in the long run, particularly with Wemby's ability to kind of stretch the floor. I kind of wonder if they had their eyes on 2 players, and when said player number 2 didn't fall to them at 8, they said, well, you know what, we'll take the best guy available. And clearly Minnesota had a huge interest in finding another guard that can be a scorer for them. Rob Dillingham's that guy in terms of what he brings to the floor. And then they also go out and get Terrence Shannon Jr., also a heavy scorer for Illinois. They clearly had an idea of what they wanted to walk out of this draft with, and using 2 first-round picks to get Rob Dillingham. Minnesota's running out of picks to use, JK, and that's kind of their last foray into probably what could be a pretty big move, and it's going to be Rob Dillingham. That's a lot of pressure for them, and particularly for him, headed into what they would expect to be the next generation of Minnesota.
I love the fit. You mentioned it with Rob Dillingham next to Anthony Edwards, Terrence Shannon next to Anthony Edwards. That's going to be a sight to behold. I really liked the Stephon Castle pick for the Spurs, and I thought Ron Holland to Detroit. Those picks really jumped out at me. New president of basketball operations for John Langdon in Detroit. No head coach there, but really starting to build the foundation of what he's looking for in like that hard-nosed Detroit style basketball, and I'm ready to see where it goes.
Well, they'll certainly need to start winning because they cannot continue to amass high first round picks and hope that's going to get them somewhere. So they will be relying heavily on Ron Holland II to try to become something more than just another cog in the wheel of an exceptionally young group. We do not need to talk about it, but they also just said they're not picking up the option for James Wiseman, so he's now a free agent, the best number 2 pick that's ever been made. Let's head to SimWorld Prep, where some changes were announced yesterday. SB Live broke the news that the league has made changes for Season 3. The big ones, they are moving back to an in-season tournament format only. Of course, that was the process that the league followed in the Ground Zero season to much success. They also announced that they are cutting roster sizes from 10 down to 8. JK, your thoughts?
For starters, I like this, but I also don't. I have a bit of mixed opinions. On one hand, I think that this is a welcome change because you're going to see these teams playing against each other a lot more. The last few seasons of SimWorld Prep, I like the regular season format, but you were really only playing against teams in your region. So we weren't really being able to see your true capabilities. Like Rocky Mountain Monsters were 6th seed, and they went all the way to the Run to 1 championship. If you watch the way they played in that Neo region, I don't know if I would have believed that they had Run to 1 champion in them until I watched that, which is a plus. But I'm also kind of against it because it's a lot of fluctuation, a lot of change, a lot of tournaments. Everyone's going to play each other a lot more frequently. But I thought that the regular season format did work. So I'm kind of wondering what was the end game behind this change and what really is going to follow in terms of changes coming to SimWorld Prep.
I actually am the exact opposite. I think this is great. Keep in mind, 6 to 8 teams per tournament, so this is not going to be. I think you're still going to see plenty of teams playing each other a generally similar amount. It's not going to be every team in every tournament. I also think that if you got to look at this, we've saw 2 teams that did not exist anymore because of financial limitations, having to travel Latin America and South America and SimWorld Middle East due to the rigorous travel schedule that comes with having to fly all over the globe. I mean, we saw Lone Star have a back-to-back in Australia and then into Texas. I mean, you want to talk about maybe the hardest back-to-back. How they even got there is impressive in and of its own self. So I think the logistics of this is that these teams are going to be sitting in the same areas, doing the same tournaments, playing the same teams for short periods of time. I think that's fantastic. I also think it's a huge boost for scouts. You now have only one place to go to get a boatload of players in front of you. I think that's fantastic for the players because now you're going to get an insurance that you're going to have the best scouts in the best place at the right time. You're not going to be competing with other games throughout the country that are happening in the same period of time. And then the roster size scale back, I also really like. We had a lot of guys that just sat on the bench that we talked ad nauseum about on this show with plenty of different guests about 9th, 10th guys on the roster just weren't getting minutes. And I think this reduction in roster size ensures that now guys should have more opportunity to thrive. Now, overall, yep, you're looking at fewer roster spots generally, but there's now going to be more opportunity within a game because now you're not giving 3-4 minutes, throwaway minutes to the 9th and 10th guy. That can go to the 6th or 7th guy that was getting 12 minutes, now he's getting 16. And I think that's a much bigger opportunity for these guys to develop, get film on tape for coaches and for scouts to see. I think this is overall a really big win for the league, for the teams, and most importantly, for the players.
Players are going to suffer a lot of growth, like you just mentioned. I'm excited for that. We saw De'Aaron Cruz get a tough go of it with the Yacht Club, getting 0 minutes in a Run to 1 postseason game. This is a good way to prevent that.
Yeah, I think it's overall. I think people that maybe don't recall or don't remember or forgot about the Ground Zero season, I think that was the breeding ground for a lot of competition. And just because we're not going to have regular season records to reflect on, I don't think that changes much for the game. The story did announce there's more to come, so we'll be interested to see what the 18 tournaments look like, what the standing and the procedures are for the national tournament as well. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and we'll, of course, react to that. One more piece on our docket today as we head down to Mississippi, where Bay St. Louis's own Deonta Joyce has announced his commitment to the University of Memphis. He will be a Tiger once he concludes. He's head of their next season. Averaged 4.8 points, 3.7 rebounds for Gulf Coast Lockdown. Joyce heading over to Memphis, a very talented basketball team that's trying to resurrect themselves into SimWorld U. Big congratulations to Deonta Joyce. Congratulations to the Memphis Tigers. But now Joyce, a home next season in Memphis, teaming up with a handful of guys that he's well familiar with.
I love this move for Deonta Joyce. Congrats to Deonta Joyce. Another Gulf Coast Lockdown player announcing his SimWorld U commitment. These young men a lot of them have a bright future ahead of them. And he's going to play for Penny Hardaway now, who has a history of playing with good SWBA big men. You have Precious Achua, you have James Wiseman. He's done well with these big men in the past, and hopefully he can tap into that same potential with Deonta Joyce.
I don't know that I'm going to be using James Wiseman as the second reference point for Memphis's track record of sending big guys to the league, but he was the second overall pick, and he did hopefully lined his bank account with some nice pieces. Joins Kenneth Klum in this recruiting class, and of course, Lace Darius Outlaw returning for the Memphis Tigers. All right, that's our show. We're coming back tomorrow on a Friday to wrap things up for the week. JK, appreciate you coming in, shooting some talk. Of course, this Saturday is the Prep Stars of Tomorrow Showcase, 1 o'clock. We'll preview that with Rick Ice Cold Blaze as we get ready for a huge weekend in SimWorld Prep. JK, thanks again for coming on. Thank you all for tuning in here on SimWorld today on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, beat the game.